In the heart of ancient Egypt, power reigns supreme. Enormous pyramids tower against a glowing desert sky. The Nile flows, nourishing fertile lands, while majestic temples echo with prayers to gods. However, beneath this splendor, a darker reality brews. Hebrew slaves toil under a merciless sun. They lift heavy stones, mold bricks, and suffer harsh punishment. Exhaustion and fear are etched on their faces. Meanwhile, Moses is returning home after years in the wilderness. His feet tread the desert sands, accompanied by his brother Aaron. They march toward Pharaoh's city, destiny pulling at their hearts. As they approach the enormous palace, anticipation builds. Golden columns gleam in the torchlight, casting flickering shadows. Guards in ancient armor guard the entrance. On an imposing throne, Pharaoh sits, exuding arrogance. Moses speaks the command of God, his voice steady yet filled with urgency. "Let my people go." Pharaoh's disdainful gaze pierces through the air. He questions the authority of the Hebrew God and, defiantly, refuses. Instead, he escalates the suffering of the slaves. Tension fills the air as Moses warns Pharaoh. Consequences await, dire and unrelenting. Egypt will soon face trials unlike any before. As these words linger, the atmosphere shifts, heavy with impending doom. The camera pans to an aerial view of Egypt at sunset. The Nile shimmers ominously, reflecting a darkening sky. Clouds gather on the horizon, foretelling the storm to come. This is merely the beginning. The path to liberation begins with 10 harsh plagues, each more terrifying than the last. The struggle unfolds, a battle of faith against tyranny. With each plague, the grandeur of Pharaoh's power diminishes. Chaos spreads through the land, affecting every corner of Egypt. Witness the Egyptians' fear grow, see the Hebrews' hope ignite. Through storytelling, we understand the power of faith and resilience. The story of Moses is not just history, it is a lesson in determination. Join us in this journey through the ancient world. Here, strength and belief collide with authority and despair. Experience the unfolding drama of the 10 plagues of Egypt. Subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon for more epic tales from history. Don't miss the next chapter of this incredible story. Your journey into the past begins now. As we glide over the tranquil Nile River, peace surrounds us. Fishermen skillfully cast their nets, hoping for a bountiful catch. Nearby, farmers gather precious water, vital for their crops. Children splash and play joyfully by the banks, while boats drift lazily on the surface. This is life along the Nile. But suddenly, a shift occurs. The calm is replaced by foreboding. We see Moses and Aaron standing resolutely at the river. Moses raises his staff, invoking the supernatural. Watch as the clear water begins to darken ominously. The transformation is horrifying. The Nile swells with blood, and fish float lifelessly. Panic spreads among the Egyptian citizens rushing toward the river. Fishermen, now empty-handed, pull their nets filled with death. A foul odor suffocates the air, blanketing the riverbanks in despair. The Nile isn't just a river, it is the lifeblood of Egypt. It nourishes their agriculture, it facilitates transportation, and it embodies religious significance. Striking at the Nile strikes at the heart of Egyptian civilization. Yet, Pharaoh remains defiant, refusing to surrender his grip on power. In the shadows of night, the second plague unfolds. From the Nile, thousands of frogs emerge, followed by an overwhelming tide of swarming amphibians. They invade every space: homes, bedrooms, kitchens, temples, and even palace corridors. The Egyptian citizens scream as frogs leap across tables. Chaos reigns. Even Pharaoh's palace cannot escape their invasion. With desperation, Pharaoh summons Moses and Aaron. He trembles as he promises to free the Israelites if the frogs disappear. We witness Moses deeply praying, seeking the divine plea for relief. In the morning light, the frogs suddenly die, leaving enormous piles strewn across the streets of Egypt. But as the crisis lifts, Pharaoh's heart hardens once again. He pulls himself back to his throne, a scene of silence enveloping him as palace doors close. These plagues remind us of nature's fury and the resilience of the human spirit. They echo throughout history, a warning of the consequences of defiance against the divine. Reflect on these events, and remember the lessons they hold. Join us in exploring deeper stories of the past. Subscribe now for more powerful tales. In ancient Egypt, a false sense of security settled. The worst seemed to be behind them. But soon, they would face a new nightmare. Aaron stood tall, staff in hand. He struck the dust of the earth. Suddenly, it transformed. Abruptly, swarms of tiny insects erupted into the air. Gnats engulfed the land. People wriggled in discomfort. Animals thrashed helplessly. Their homes became uninhabitable, covered in buzzing chaos. Egyptian priests tried to grasp the calamity. But the magicians, once confident, faltered. They stood before Pharaoh, their faces pale. Frightened and confused, they admitted, "This power is beyond us." Then came the fourth plague. Towering black swarms of flies began to darken the sky. Street markets vanished under clouds of insects. Families scrambled to hide. Markets lay abandoned. The priests fled their temples, leaving behind their sacred duties. Amidst the chaos, a striking contrast emerged. The Israelites' land remained untouched. While Egypt succumbed to despair, peace thrived in their community. Pharaoh, strained and desperate, attempted negotiation again. He offered partial freedom, an empty compromise. But Moses held firm, honoring God's command. Once more, Pharaoh wavered, clinging to power. Then, the fifth plague struck mercilessly. Egyptian livestock fell across the countryside. Horses, cattle, sheep, sick and dying. Farmers were left helpless. Egypt's wealth withered away before their eyes. Empty fields stretched before them. Silent stables echoed their grief. Yet, in the distance, the livestock of the Israelites flourished. Pharaoh, determined to investigate, commanded reports be brought forth. He learned that the Hebrews were spared. But still, he stood unmoved. Defiance marked his heart. The camera panned up to Pharaoh's face, a mask of fury and stubbornness. Thunder rumbled ominously in the distance, signaling a wrath yet to come. As darkness enveloped the land, one truth remained clear. The epic battle between power and faith was far from over. Witness the depth of defiance. See how chaos shapes destiny. Join us as this tale unfolds. Prepare for what comes next. Click to follow the story forward. In ancient Egypt, a tense moment unfolds. Moses and Aaron stand before Pharaoh, a man hardened by pride. With a dismissive wave, Pharaoh refuses to heed their warning. The scene shifts as Moses throws ashes into the air. The wind carries these ashes across the land, as if marking Egypt for calamity. Suddenly, painful boils develop on people and animals alike. Egyptian citizens scream in agony, seeking relief, but physicians fail to help. Even the priests and magicians cannot stand before Moses, overwhelmed by their inability to save their people. Egypt's confidence begins to crumble. Then, the seventh plague approaches. Dark storm clouds gather ominously over the desert. an enormous thunderstorm brews like never before. Lightning tears across the sky in a furious display. Massive hailstones begin to fall, crashing onto the earth. Show crops and trees shatter, homes destroyed, and animals trapped in the storm. Fire flashes within the storm as lightning slams down, igniting destruction everywhere. Egyptian farmers watch helplessly as their fields turn to ruin. Amid chaos, Pharaoh finally calls Moses to him. For a fleeting moment, he seems to confess his sins, remorse washing over his face. Moses, wise and compassionate, prays for relief. Remarkably, the storm halts as if obeying. The sky falls silent, an eerie calm enveloping the land. But Pharaoh's heart hardens once more, his pride reasserting itself. Now the ninth plague descends upon Egypt. Moses ominously warns of encroaching darkness. Suddenly, the sun vanishes, engulfing Egypt in an unnatural gloom. Show a darkness so thick, people cannot see one another. Torches flicker and sputter, providing scant light in this profound blackness. For 3 agonizing days, Egypt exists in fear. Streets, once bustling, now lay empty. Families cower, and temples stand abandoned. Inside his dark palace, Pharaoh sits alone, consumed by his own shadows. Yet in stark contrast, the land of the Israelites glimmers with light. A powerful reminder of hope shines through the thick veil of despair. As tension escalates, Pharaoh erupts in rage, angrily demanding Moses leave his presence. But before departing, Moses delivers one last chilling warning. In this tale of defiance and darkness, we witness the struggle between pride and humility, light and shadow. Embrace the lessons of history. How often do we ignore warnings leading us to despair? Join us next time to further explore the extraordinary events that shaped our world. In a land quietened by fear, Egypt holds its breath. 9 plagues have ravaged the kingdom. The air is thick with tension. Silence fills the streets like an unseen blanket. The scene shifts to Moses on a mountain, receiving a solemn word from God. This plague will be unlike the others, he states. It carries a promise and a warning. A grave message follows. The firstborn of Egypt will die. Pharaoh must finally release the enslaved Israelites. There is no room for doubt or delay. The weight of generations hangs in the air. Meanwhile, in the homes of the faithful Israelites, a different mood prevails. Families gather, their hearts heavy yet hopeful. They listen intently to the instructions from Moses. A young lamb is chosen, its blood symbolizing protection. Parents cradle their children tightly, whispers of reassurance filling the room. Each is preparing for an uncertain, yet hopeful, journey. The blood of the lamb is painted on the doorposts. It glistens red against the wood, a sign of their faith. They eat together, their hearts entwined with the promise of freedom. Outside, a stark contrast unfolds. Egyptian palaces emanate dread and darkness. Inside, fear and disbelief grip those who refuse to believe. A thick air of despair hangs over the city. As midnight approaches, an oppressive stillness blankets Egypt. The moon glows eerily, casting shadows through the empty streets. Silence lingers, a prelude to the storm. The camera pans to Pharaoh's palace, where unease grows. Suddenly, the fateful hour arrives. With no need for graphic displays, sorrow takes the forefront. Egypt awakens to a nightmare, families torn apart by grief. Mothers scream. Fathers frantically search for their children in panic. A deafening cry echoes across the land, a sound of utter despair. Even Pharaoh feels the weight of loss within his palace walls. The realization dawns upon him, his refusal has led to destruction. A broken Pharaoh sends for Moses and Aaron, his heart heavy with regret. "Leave, take your people," he orders. This moment signifies the end of oppression. After centuries of slavery, freedom stands at their door. As dawn begins to break, Hebrew families gather their belongings. Hope shines in their eyes, illuminating the darkness of their past. The sun rises, signaling a new beginning. They step towards liberation, leaving behind the chains of oppression. The wounds of history will heal, and a new journey begins. Remember this moment, this story. The bond of faith and family shines brighter than any night of suffering. Join us in reflecting on this powerful journey of hope and resilience. As dawn greets the horizon, a multitude stirs. Thousands of Israelites weave through the desert. Families clutch their meager belongings. Children scurry beside their parents, gazing at the rising sun. Behind them, Egypt lies quiet. Abandoned fields stretch across the landscape. Ruined buildings stand as silent witnesses. Grieving citizens mourn their losses. The impact of the 10 plagues looms large. The Nile ran red with blood. The land has suffered immensely. Animals perished, crops lay destroyed. A heavy darkness enveloped the nation. Pharaoh finally relented, releasing the Israelites from bondage. But what did the 10 plagues signify? They illustrated God's immense power over Pharaoh, Egypt, and false idols. Dramatic images of Egyptian temples stand beneath dark, swirling clouds. Moses emerges, leading the people into the unknown wilderness. Their story is just beginning. Freedom marks an entirely new journey ahead. The Israelites gaze towards a vast desert horizon, filled with uncertainty. Now, let's briefly revisit the plagues that changed everything. First, the Nile transformed into blood. Then, frogs invaded every corner of Egypt. Next, gnats arose from the dust, followed by swarms of flies. Livestock fell ill, leading to a devastating loss. Painful boils afflicted the Egyptians. A fierce storm unleashed hail upon the land. Soon, locusts consumed what remained. Darkness blanketed the nation for 3 long days. Finally, the last plague struck with heart-wrenching consequence. We return to Pharaoh's throne room, silent and empty. The camera pulls back, revealing the vastness of the deserted palace. Moses and the Israelites continue their trek towards the dawn. The spectacular sunrise symbolizes hope and new beginnings. These 10 plagues were not mere tales of destruction. They marked the commencement of a profound transition, from slavery to freedom. A powerful story echoing through history for millennia. Fade to black. The 10 plagues of Egypt, from slavery to freedom.